Ask not what your country can do for you. Rather, ask what you can do for your country. The power to change our society lies within each and every one of us. But the ability to do that effectively is aided by the knowledge that we have. Today on Chapters, we are looking at social innovation and what it takes to make real and lasting impact in our communities. I'm excited because I have with me on the show today Mrs. Ndidi OKOKNWO-NWUNELI. She's the founder of Leap Africa, the co-founder of Ace Foods, a director at Sahel Capital and at the Africa Philanthropy Forum. She's also a serial social entrepreneur, and she's the author of Reaching Millions with Impact. You are welcome to Chapters.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want us to talk about social innovation today, and I know that is big grammar to a lot of people, and they wonder, what does social innovation even mean? And though the name of your book is called Reaching Millions with Impact, there's actually another one that looks exactly like this that is titled Social Innovation in Africa. So before we go into the book, tell us why the book has two names and then what social innovation means.
Okay, so the book was published by Routledge, which is a British publisher, under the title Social Innovation in Africa, a Practical Guide for Scaling Impact. And so Routledge has worldwide rights to the book except for Nigeria. And in Nigeria...
So only for Nigeria.
Yes, in Nigeria I have rights to the book. And so in Nigeria I can sell the book, and when I was talking to my Nigerian friends and potential readers, they said, what is social innovation? So I titled the book in Nigeria, Reaching Millions with Impact. But online, on Amazon, and all the other avenues, it's called Social Innovation in Africa.
So what is social innovation?
So basically, the term social innovation is really a relatively new term. So social means issues that affect the masses of people. Innovation means approaches to solve the problems that affect millions of people. Fantastic. Now, innovation can be a new idea, a new way of doing things, a method, an ideology, but it's oftentimes people are scared of that word innovation. But basically, it's a new approach to solving problems that affect all masses of people. Now, in reality, we have so many problems.
Too many.
Many of us are overwhelmed when we think about how to address those problems. The social innovator comes in and says, I see a problem, I see a solution based on a new approach. And that's what a social innovator does.
Wow, fantastic. But it's, when you say it's new, that means that the term itself is new. But I mean, trying to solve the problems of masses of people is not
age-old.
A new
It's
thing.
age-old, yeah. So basically, social innovators see, you know, we have social entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
They're different from social innovators.
So what's the difference?
Okay, so a social entrepreneur actually has to start a new initiative. A social innovator can be in a government agency. They can be working in a for-profit company. They don't have to start a new enterprise to be called a social innovator. They are solving problems. Even in the church, you can be an assistant pastor and you come up with a solution to a problem. In that enterprise where you are, you're a social innovator. And we have social innovators in all sectors, and we need them in all sectors. They don't necessarily have to become entrepreneurs.
So it's not like it's you start a business or you start. I see.
You can be a social innovator in any enterprise, in any establishment, in any a stakeholder in any avenue. And many of us feel limited because I work in a bank.
Exactly.
So I can't start a new initiative. I believe that there's a crisis in education in Nigeria, but I can't go and start a social enterprise to address it. But in that bank,
within the
you
bank,
can find a solution. Maybe it's, you know, providing loans to women or families that need to pay for school fees. Or
so that is social innovation.
In that enterprise, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fantastic difference between social entrepreneurship and social innovation. But then why did you decide to write a book on social innovation?
Well, as a Nigerian and an African, I was very frustrated with the pace of change in our countries. And I'm sure many Africans share my frustration. Oftentimes you look out your window and you see the level of hunger or poverty. You look at the outcomes of unemployed youth. You look at some of the challenges around maternal mortality. And it makes you really angry and upset. And many of us feel powerless. And the book is really supposed to empower individuals who are angry about the state of affairs and feel they can do something. And what the book does is give you a step-by-step process. It's like a toolkit
from the beginning
to help you figure out what you want to do, how are you going to do it, what's the best model, how do you finance this innovation, how do you scale it, how do you partner. And it's really supposed to be a very practical guide. Because I've been a social entrepreneur for close to 20 years, on a daily basis people come and say, Ndidi, I'm angry about this, I want to do this. So now I have a toolkit to put in their hands to say, here, you want to do something? Go and read the book. After you read the book, come back and have a discussion, and then we can move forward. I felt that many Africans did not have the knowledge to establish social innovations and to scale them. And so this book not only has the information, but it has case studies of those who are doing it, caselets, and then resources at the back. So if you want to get funding, if you want to get a fellowship, if you want to further your studies, so it has all of that in the book.
You know what I found reading the book? What scared me was the amount of research that you did. After like 5 lines, you just say, in Kenya, this company, in Tanzania. And I'm like, how did you put the research there? Because this is a body of research. How did you do that?
So I basically enrolled in a senior fellowship at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. And that was amazing that your hook is a quote from JFK.
Yes.
And the school
is
named after him.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so basically this senior fellowship allowed me to get the resources and support to interview about 80 social innovators across the continent, as well as funders and thought leaders, to really try to gain insights from their own experiences. As a social innovator, I was struggling to scale the initiatives I had started. So I wanted to learn how people were doing it. And by interviewing them about the frustrations, the benefits, the strategies, and how many of them had broken through and were reaching millions, that enabled me to build some toolkits and models that would inspire others.
So let's start from the foundation. If I want to become a social innovator in any industry that I am, what's the first thing to do?
The first thing to do is actually to articulate what problem you're trying to address, and then define what success looks like when you've achieved that impact. And it's often...
Problem, success.
Yes. So it's like, this is where I am today. This is the situation. This is what I want to achieve. Now, don't tell me you want to eradicate poverty in Africa. That's too broad. You have to be really specific. And that's the challenge. A lot of people say, I want to eradicate poverty. I
want to change the world.
Even the Bible says that the poor will always be with us. So you cannot eradicate poverty. But you can say, you know what? In Shomolu local government, I want to reduce the number of unemployed youth by 50%. So if there are, 1 million unemployed youth, by 2020, they're going to be 500,000 unemployed youth.
So something you can actually measure.
It has to be measurable and has to be specific. And you have to see what success looks like when you've arrived at that destination. Because I think a lot of us are very altruistic, and almost impractical with our desires and dreams. And that's why politicians in the campaign trail say we'll eradicate poverty or we'll make sure everybody has a meal. You often get skeptical because you know how difficult it is and how expensive it is. So once you figure that out, then you define what your model of intervention is going to be. So I'm going to follow that Shomolu example and say if we want to help young people get jobs, is it good about skills? Are we going to provide them with skills? Is it a career center? Is it a job placement center? What is the avenue? And what is that business model? And so the toolkit has steps around a business model, which is very practical. It has to be low cost. If you really want to serve people from the beginning, you have to say, how much is it going to cost me to serve one person and to achieve impact? Then, how am I using technology? And then how do you engage the community? Many of us come with interventions that we want to help people, but we haven't seen the people in that community to engage. And one of the examples is a very good model from Kenya where they have daycare centers. And every day, the mamas can drop off their kids and pay the equivalent of $1. And the amazing thing is, who are they training to manage these childcare centers? The women in the community. You don't have to import teachers in that community.
So they're empowering the women at the same time solving the problem.
Exactly. So if a woman wants to braid come to your house and braid your hair. She has a place to leave her kid for the
child.
day. And it's affordable because she's just paying for the day. And that mama in that community, she knows that mama, but that mama is now trained and equipped to deliver. So how do you engage the community? And then how simple is your solution? I talk to social innovators who have to explain their solution in 1 hour. If you can't explain it in one sentence, it means that it's too complex and it's not scalable. So I provide some very practical examples of how you refine your model to make sure that from the beginning, your model is scalable and can reach those millions with impact. So that's the first step. The second step is...
Before you go on the second step, okay, let's go on a short break. But, I mean, this is something that we all have to listen to, especially because she has said it is not about starting a business. It's about the fact that there is a need, and there are many needs all around us. And that means we can all do something about it. So after the break, we'll continue to the second step. We'll be right back. You are welcome back to Chapters, and today we are talking about social innovation through the eyes of the book Reaching Millions with Impact. And before we went on a break, my guest, Mrs. Ndidi, was talking about the factors that contribute to scaling your business. And you're going to make a second point, but I know there's something you missed out that you want to say.
Yes. So for social innovation to really make a difference and the model to work, it has to be demand-driven. Now, what does that mean? Many of us sit in our corners and we say, you know, I see a problem here and I want to solve it. But the people that you want to solve that problem for, they might not want it. Will they prioritize it? Will they accept it? Will they own it? I'll give you an example. I work in agriculture, and a lot of money has been spent on orange flesh sweet potato. That's sweet potato that's orange. The same with orange cassava, with vitamin A, because we have such a high rate of deficiency of vitamin A in Nigeria. So, you know, so many people invested in creating this fantastic food supplements that would improve the lives of our people. Guess what? Nigerians don't want orange cassava because they don't like orange gari. You know, they know yellow gari in the southeast, but when they see orange gari, they're like, what is this? The same with orange flesh sweet potato. They say, what type of potato is this? So despite the millions of dollars that have been spent on these innovations, they're not accepted by the average Nigerian.
So that means even if something seems to be a solution, because like you said, lack of vitamin A, so we need it, it doesn't mean that it would work. It has to be demand-driven.
Always get the community involved to say, is this important to you?
Do you want this?
Do you want this? Will you continue to use it after I've gone, if it's no longer free? Will you continue to use it? Will you value it? And what we find is that many of our interventions, after the funding is no longer available, is not utilized by those because they don't value it, they don't need it. But if you create interventions that are demand-driven, beyond your money and subsidized services or food or whatever, they will continue to value it and prioritize it.
So the first thing from what you're saying is make sure that the demand is there.
Yes.
Don't just have a fantastic idea and I have money, pump the money into it, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't work.
And that's why we have what we call white elephant projects all over Nigeria and all over Africa. Projects that somebody conceived and thought were so viable and so useful, but others didn't. Yeah, so it has to be demand-driven. Now, the second chapter is focused...
That's actually that's a very thought-provoking
It's very
thing.
important,
Before you go into any venture, if social innovation, even a business venture, make sure people are asking for your products.
Exactly.
Second point.
The second chapter is really focused on talents for scaling.
Which you said, and I want to read what you said in that chapter. The first thing you said was, this is the biggest challenge to scaling on the African continent, the people that will do the work.
Yes.
Why is talent such a challenge?
Well, sadly, the founders or the visionaries cannot do everything themselves. There's a limit to what you can do. You want to change your environment, can you do it by yourself? No. Absolutely not. You need people. Now, you need to find mission-driven high achievers. So people who share your values, who understand the mission, and who are high achievers, meaning they want to achieve impact and success. Then having a board of directors. This is something I'm really, really passionate about, especially if you're going to have a social enterprise.
You preached this to me so many times. In fact, you wrote a book on Get On Board.
Yes, Sleep Africa has a book called Get On Board. I really believe a board of directors, a board of advisors, or whatever you want to call them is critical. Because you need people who you can bounce ideas off of. Your staff are there and your team is there. Now, they have to be individuals who also share your values and vision and who have credibility in the public domain and who can open doors, but who can provide critical advice and rigor to your work.
So having said that now, a lot of people want to start something and they get a board. And like you said in your book, you resisted the temptation to populate the board with friends or family members.
Yes.
So I'm like, my husband come, my brother come,
Exactly.
my sister come. Let's, in fact, also because they want to keep the business within the family. So who are the kinds of people? Because you also said here it should consist of legal,
Yes.
finance, accounting, branding,
Yes.
and people that are experts on your subject matter.
area. So with every initiative I've started, I think my board has been the biggest success factor. Your family will always be available to give you advice and encouragement, and your friends as well. But they will not hold you accountable. They will not say, Tony, last year you said you were going to reach 500,000 youth in Shomolu, and you've already reached 10,000. Tony, what is going on? They'll be celebrating your family. You'll be like, Tony,
well
so
done,
nice.
you tried,
though. No. A board holds you accountable. So you need people who you respect. Who, when you're coming for your 4 board meetings a year, you're preparing.
Shaking.
You have your documents. You want to prove something. And they're going to keep pushing you and challenging you. A finance and accounting person is very important because whatever you're doing, you need to keep your books. You need to be credible financially. If you want to attract funding, you have to be able to show that you're a good steward of resources. And so you need someone who's going to be looking at the numbers and saying,
sure that
how are you using this money? Is it used effectively? Are you doing your audits every year, etc.? You need a legal person because there are always issues, not only just about incorporation, but trademark, branding, partnerships, MOUs with the community, everything you do. Partnerships with the government, you need a lawyer. Not a lawyer who's on your payroll, a lawyer who can be independent, transparent, and challenge you. You also need a branding and media person because we do such great work, but we don't know how to communicate
Put it out there.
And how to share the success stories and the impact. And that branding and person can help you with that. And then you need a subject matter expert. That's an individual who, let's say I want to enter agriculture. I mean, I have entered agriculture. I didn't study agriculture. Or quality control, or food technology. So I need people on my board who have that expertise. So whenever we have challenges, I can go to them and say, what do you think we should do? So those are critical roles that every board needs to have. And I feel that many of us think, we have to be big to have a board. No, from the time you have a concept, an idea, put the board in place.
So that's almost like the first and second thing you do. After the concept, the second thing is the board.
In fact, send it to the prospective board members with a formal letter and say, I would like you to serve. And you don't have to pay them.
Thank you for bringing up that point.
Yeah, a lot of people are so scared.
Think that as well. And then because, like you said in your book, have about meetings 3 or 4 times a year. And then there's the sitting meeting, what they call the sitting allowance. So they think, I mean, I'm a new business, so I'm a social innovator. Where's the money coming from?
Just value them. Use their time effectively. 2 hours, 3 hours, be prepared for the board meeting. And then make sure they feel value. As you're impacting society, they're getting the benefit.
Also getting the benefit.
If you have a for-profit, over time you can pay them. When we started Ace Foods, we told them, for the first 3 years, we're not going to be able to pay you anything. And they were happy to serve. Now, they even tell us, don't pay us, but we give them products, we give them lunch. You know, there are ways to make people feel valued without not just financial return. Yeah, and believe me, I sit on a lot of global boards. Some of the biggest companies pay the least, but I'm honored
to at least
serve on the board. I'm honored. I learn from that experience. I meet fantastic people. So there are lots of benefits to serving on board. And I think many of us should not limit ourselves to who we ask to serve on our board, but they have to have the time and be willing to give of themselves. Don't just look for big names who are not going to come for any meeting. So there's a fine line between people who are accomplished and people who make this a priority.
You literally took that thought out of my head because sometimes people think, okay, what I need on my board is maybe somebody up there, and then how do I get the person? So if I'm at this stage and I'm starting something and the legal financial people are not people that are within my reach, how do I then go about setting up the board?
So you definitely have networks. Ask individuals for recommendations on people they think can serve on your board. I do that for a lot of people. I'll give you an example. When I was starting Leap Africa, I met Lamido Sanusi at a dinner. I just thought this man was brilliant. At the time, he was working at UBA. And he served as a fantastic board member on the Leap Africa board. I found this man is brilliant. He can add so much value just because of the way he thinks about entrepreneurship and wealth creation in Nigeria. And I wrote him a formal letter. He had to ask people about me. He didn't know me from, and Adam, as they say. He didn't know me. And literally, they said, well, she's a young person, but she's committed, she's driven, and she's credible.
Fantastic.
And he agreed to serve on the board, and he was one of our most devoted board members. Fantastic. So I think it's really about finding people who are passionate about the topic. They'll be doing it full-time if they could, but because you have that vision, they'll support you. Fantastic. When they're too busy for you, though, definitely you shouldn't have them on your board.
Talking about board, moving on from board, I want to talk about partnerships.
Yes.
Because that was another area. And partnerships, in fact, what you wrote in the book, it can be difficult. It sounds amazing.
So it's critical. You cannot scale without partnerships, just like you cannot scale without talents. I would say talents and partnerships are even more important than money. And I have a chapter on financing scaling. But partnerships are really critical. Many times we limit ourselves. We try to solve all the problems working with our team in a silo, not realizing that the private sector, public sector, and civil society can help. And that if we actually map out the key stakeholders in our region, we'll find out people who can partner with us. There are many, many ways to influence and partner and have impact, widespread impact. For partnerships to succeed, you need to leave your egos and logos at the door.
I was going to say egos and logos.
Egos and logos. It's about impact. Let's focus on the lives we are trying to change. I don't care if it's your logo or my logo. I don't care who the big guy is.
People want to be the face and the name. And no. Am I the face? Are you the face?
Let's focus on the beneficiaries. Those people's lives we are changing. And if we focus on that, everything else works and falls into place.
It's work.
It's work.
Social innovation is work.
Like and that's why you have to keep your eyes on what the end goal is. What does success
That's why I said define success.
Yes.
So that you keep looking at that.
Yeah, if you don't define it early, you're going to give up. You really are. But if you see your pathway to success in partnerships and in your team and your model, you'll stay the course.
Okay. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching that and thinking, okay, so the money. Yes. Where does the money come from? But we'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, we'll talk about the money. So stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk about financial scaling, how to scale your social innovative idea. We'll be right back. You are welcome back to Chapters, and it's been an engaging conversation talking with Mrs. Ndidi Nwuneli about her book, Social Innovation in Africa, or the other title, Reaching Millions with Impact. And before we went on the break, I said we'll come back and talk about the key issue, which it's really not the key issue, but a lot of people make it such a mountain. And I'll read something you said in your book. So you said, financing is cited by innovators operating in Africa as the biggest barrier to scaling social innovations in the public, private, and non-profit sectors. So why is finance always such... Do we make it more of a mountain than it is?
That was the biggest learning from this book, is that there's more money chasing good ideas than there are good ideas.
Wow.
And in Africa, there's more money.
There's more money chasing good ideas than there are good ideas. So there is money.
Plenty of money.
So money is not a problem.
It's not a problem. And the problem is us. So there are a few things. Number one is business models we've just talked about. The second is how we're even communicating what we're doing so people know about us. What I learned is that there are some individuals and organizations that get all the money. And when you study them, you realize they're so good at communicating what they do. They have very active websites, annual reports, white papers, they speak publicly, they travel the world, and everybody thinks they're the only ones doing anything. And so they get all the money. They're called donor darlings. But before we even get to donors, social innovators can generate earned income, which means they can actually get people to pay for their services.
Exactly.
By unbundling their costs. And many of us don't realize it. So in terms of solar distribution in East Africa, where now so many people use solar, the social innovators there have figured out how to get you to pay per day for your electricity. So they basically have a billing system linked to your lights. And so if you only use your fridge that day, you don't use your freezer, you pay just for that. So they've unbundled it, which makes it easier for people to be able to afford it. If I have to pay upfront for something and pay for the whole month, of course it's expensive. So you get people to pay what they can. So there are many ways to generate earned income. There's also an idea of subsidized services where you ask people to pay market rates for those who can afford it, and those who can't, subsidize those. So it's called offering services on a sliding scale.
Subsidization.
Yeah. Beyond earned income, you can generate a lot of money from funders and from partners through crowdfunding, through grants, through loans. There's so many ways, and I have examples here.
You have too many
of
examples.
Individuals and groups that have been able to generate money. I'll give a simple example. There's a young lady who came to start a tomato farm in Nasarawa State. Now she's not even Nigerian, but she chose to come to Nigeria to start a tomato farm. So she did a video and put it online and raised $50,000 through crowdfunding. But beyond, and her company is called Tomato Just. If you see this video, you want to donate. It's fun. It's cool. It makes the whole concept of tomato farming and gives the argument for why she's going to make a difference in Nigeria. And she generated $50,000 from people who didn't know her. Everybody contributing something small. The same with Ace Foods, when we wanted to provide our products to the IDP camps, our soya maize that addresses malnutrition, we decided to do a crowdfunding campaign to get people all over Nigeria and all over the world to buy food. You can buy food for 1 week, you can buy food for 1 month, and that allowed us to offer our soya maize at cost and not go out of business. We don't realize that there are so many competitions, there are accelerators, there are fellowships that we can take advantage of. And the sad reality is the same people that I talked about who are very good at advertising are the same ones who get millions of dollars.
Because they're very good at advertising.
One group I cover, 1 Acre Fund, started with a business plan competition. From their business plan competition, they got Echoing Green. Echoing Green, they were able to get another fellow. Now they get millions of dollars from Gates Foundation, and yet they generate earned income from the farmers they serve.
So at the end of the day, this boils down to, it's a lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge and an unwillingness also to be very transparent. Nobody wants to give you money if they think you're going to use it to buy a car. When you say you're serving widows, and then they give you money, and the next thing you've bought a car and built a house. We have to be transparent. We have to be honest. We have to be committed to living lives of integrity. And that is really important, especially as Nigerian social innovators, because there are some social innovators who have given others a bad name just by the way that they've utilized the resources they've generated.
Wow. So where do we go from here? So someone picks this book now and reads all of this. It can seem like a lot of information at the same time, truly. And, you know, I like the fact that in every chapter you did ask questions.
Yes.
In fact, even myself, I stay answering them.
Yes,
so they're key questions.
Yeah, there are 2 boxes.
There are 2 boxes and everything.
And examples of people who are doing it. So it proves that it can be done in our environment. Yeah.
So what's the next phase? How do you think we can begin to implement these things?
First of all, I think you have to be willing as an individual to commit to becoming a social innovator. This will empower you with the knowledge, and the last few pages give you all the resources you need. If it's funding, if it's a competition, if it's accelerator, it's a fellowship, you can go and find the information and you can apply.
There are about 20 pages.
Yeah, so the truth is there's so much available to African social innovators who are willing to step out and do the hard work to achieve results. What we need are armies of change agents. I believe that everybody can take it upon themselves to solve one problem in their society. You can't solve all of them, but you can solve one. And you have everything that you require to do it. You just have to be willing to work hard, attract mission-driven high achievers, partner, reach out and get the funding for scaling. The funding is available.
Get a board.
Get a board that's going to hold you accountable and push you to achieve results. And then the sky is really the starting point. You can do so much more. And once you start one thing and solve one problem, you can take on the second one. You can't address all of them at the same time. And you build your muscle. You realize, wow, I can be a serial social entrepreneur. I can become a change agent. We celebrate change agents. We celebrate Gandhi and Mandela. But we need more in our backyard. And I think we have to foster an environment to promote social innovation.
Listening to you, I realize that the challenge is as well, because we want to do things on a big scale and dream big and have the names immediately. You are like a Gandhi and a Mandela, everybody's thinking so huge. Start small.
They started small.
Start small.
They did too. So if you read their stories, you realize they did not.
And they didn't seek to be celebrated.
No.
It was about the change.
And the work spoke for them.
And the work spoke for them.
And that's the truth. If you find social innovation, if you're challenging yourself to say, I want to make a difference, the people you've made a difference in their lives will be the ones shouting your praises. And obviously, your reward will be on earth and in heaven.
On earth and in heaven. I totally agree.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic conversation. Where can people get copies of this book?
So you can actually go on the LEAP website, www.leapafrica.org. They'll LEAP office, Latana as well. And then Amazon, Social Innovation in Africa, you can buy it on Amazon if you're in another African country.
In case you see the name as Social Innovation in Africa, it's this same book, it's the same content. In fact, the look is the same.
Yes.
The difference is just the title. So whether it's called Reaching Millions with Impact or Social Innovation in Africa, you need to get a copy of this book. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Such amazing, amazing guests.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
I am sure that like you, like me, like you've truly been impacted by this. But I'm just going to read a quote from someone we've spoken about, Nelson Mandela, to close the show. And he says, I challenge you, well, she said, I challenge you to imbibe the words of Nelson Mandela. And he said, vision without action is just a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. And vision with action can change the world. Have your vision, get knowledge, take action. And with little steps, we will definitely change our communities and together change the world. Thank you so much for watching Chapters today. And there's a quote that I said I was going to leave with you. It's not what you know that counts. It's what you do with what you know. God bless you.